Hey there, it's Laura M and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for coming by, and if you're a returning friend, thank you also for coming by. Today we are going to be talking about my financial system I have set up in my bullet journal. Now, we all know that budgeting and finances are not the most fun things to talk about, but it is really important, especially the older you get. And the older I get, I'm 23 now, I realize that it's really important to keep track of your finances. So I found that the best way to keep track of my finances is the same way I keep track of everything, my bullet journal. Without further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So we're actually going to start by going to the back of my journal. There's my pen tester page, and then this is the start of my finance section. So right here I have a little quote that says, "Budgeting is the first step towards financial freedom." Excuse me, you can hear my bird in the background. I'll try to insert a picture of him. He's very chatty, especially while I'm talking. So here I have the title for my finance section, and on my first page is my goals. So I set up 4 financial goals for the year, and so my main one is to save $5,000 towards moving, get a $200 or $2,000 emergency fund going, $1,000 towards vacation, if the virus cools down, and then save at least $200 towards a tattoo. So aside from this little doodle right here that I thought was really cute, I set up these bars that I've seen a lot of people do, and what I did was I sectioned off each bar into smaller sections, like smaller bars. So for the first one, I labeled them 1, 2, 3, and 4 to tie in with these. So for the first one, I divided up all of these bars, so each bar is 300 towards my goal. And as you can see, I have a ways to go. My second bar is divided into 20s, into 60s, and into 10s. So I'm working towards saving up this first, and then a little bit towards this. I'm not really working towards these two currently, but I will be. But this is just so I can keep track and have a visual aid to help see how much I'm saving. So next I have my bills tracker. And as you can see, I did not fill out this whole page, and that's because as the year goes on, like let's say if I do end up moving this year, I expect to get more bills to add on to this list. So I've hidden the ones that I've wanted to hide, but basically what I did was in this column I wrote out what the bill was that I have, like for instance my car insurance. I also put monthly subscriptions like my Spotify, my Netflix, my Hulu, etc. And then in this next column here I have how much the bill is. So for my Spotify it's $10.65 a month, and then in the third column I have when it's due, so it comes out automatically the 21st of every month. And then these 3 up here, they don't come out automatically, I have to pay them myself, so that's just something to remember. And then I have a section for each month here where I'll just check off the box once it's paid. And for my Prime student, I have the first few months are free, so I'll have to start paying in April. So I have this crossed off until April. I hope that was clear enough. I hope that made sense. And then I had this empty section right here, so I just decided to put notes. If anything changes, or if anything gets canceled or whatever, I can just stick it right here in my notes just so I can keep track of it. And finally, we have my budget page. So this is just what my January looks like. And as you can see, I didn't write down my budget, and I'm not going to write down what I actually think my budget will be. I'm just going to write down an example, and I'm going to do it in pencil, so that way you can get a good idea of how the system I'm using works. So I'm just going to fill out week 1. So let's say your expected income is $1,000. And then you have to divide that 1,000 up into different categories. These are the categories that I am focusing on. So actually, you know what? I'm going to choose a smaller number than 1,000. I'm going to do 500. That's not what my expected income is, but it's just a smaller number for the sake of this example. So, hold on, I need a calculator. Okay, I'm back with my calculator, and while I was gone, my bird started flying around the room. He even hit me in the head. It was funny. It's alright, he's fine. Okay, so calculator's on. So 500, and I have these categories. So I think about roughly how much I spend per category. So let's say and this is a 2-week system because I get paid every 2 weeks. So let's say that for the first 2 weeks of the month, I expect to spend $80 in gas. So I'm going to write down 80 here. And then food, let's say I expect to spend, let's say $100 on food just for the sake of this example. Food can be divided into 2 different categories. So that can be food for eating out or getting takeout, or food for groceries. But right now I just wrote food, and I'm going to divide those categories as I see fit by myself. So I'm going to skip over spending for now, and I'm going to go down to bills here. And let's say that $250 is supposed to come out for bills during this first 2-week period. So now I use the rest of the money to divide up how much I'm putting into each different category. So first I'm going to add up what I have so far. Ooh, so far I have $430. That doesn't really work for this example, does it? So I'm going to up this 5,000. Remember, this is just an example. So I'm going to up this 500 to like 800. Okay, let's pretend we were working with 800 this whole time. Okay, so 250 is coming out for bills, and I just erased that whole thing. Hold on. Okay, 430. So I have 800 minus 430. 370, and that's how much I have left for the rest of these categories. So let's say I want to put aside $100 in spending money. Okay, so 370 minus 100. I didn't even have to do the math on that one. I knew that was 270. But so now I have 270 to divide into my savings sections. So since I'm focusing on moving mainly, I'm going to put 100 in the moving fund. I'm going to put 100 in the emergency fund, and then 70 in the tattoo/vacation fund. I'm putting those in the same category for now. since they're not vital needs. Once again, I apologize for my bird in the background. I hope what I'm saying is still making sense, and I hope he's not distracting you too much. So next, I'm going to do actual income. So this is what you actually get, not just what you're expected to get. So let's say that you end up getting, should I go higher or should I go lower? Let's say I'm going to go lower. Let's say you end up getting $750. So now you have to adjust this income. So bills are still going to be $250. I'm going to still have my food and gas because those are vital. I'm still going to have those at the same price. But now I have to adjust everything else. So I can still have $100 in spending money here. And so far that brings us up to $530. So I have minus 530. I have $220 left. So that means that for the moving fund, I would put, I'm going to stick with the 100 for the moving fund. And then I'm going to lower this amount. So I'm going to put 80 for the emergency fund, and then 220 minus 100, minus 80. And then that leaves us with 40 for the tattoo and vacation fund. And next, we're going to do the difference for each of these. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 20, and then this is minus 20. We're going to put here minus 20, minus 30, right? Sorry, I'm bad at math. That was my worst subject in school. Okay, yes, minus 30, and then 0. And now I could do an example where there are pluses. I'm actually going to do that because I think it's important to get that idea through that it can also be. So I'm going to use the same 800 here and the same expected 100. Okay, and now let's say that you actually receive, I'm going to say 850 now, so not too much bigger, but not too much, but, so, gas, you can give yourself a little more for food here, so I'm going to say 110. You can give yourself a little more for spending here, so I'm going to say 105. Bills would still be 250, so let's do the math on that so far. So that brings us to 545. So 850 minus 545 is 305. So let's give Let's give 120 here, because why not? So 100 towards emergency and 85 towards that last category. So the difference is 0 plus 10 plus 5 plus 20, 0, plus 15, and 0. And now in reality, these numbers are going to fluctuate because you're not always going to give yourself more in certain categories. Like, let's say an emergency comes up, you might give yourself a little more towards emergency, a little less towards spending. These are just examples of differences with pluses and minuses in both of them. So I'm not going to do I'm not going to do the 5th week, but after you get all this done, you're going to add up what you actually spent. So I'm just going to quickly do this. Okay, and let's say you spent whatever that number is, $1,700 that whole month. And now we're going to add up the differences. So minus 20, minus 30, plus 10, plus 5. Okay, I somehow ended up choosing numbers that all added up to 0. But you're supposed to, like I said, the numbers will actually fluctuate throughout the month, but you're supposed to end up getting a number that's bigger than 0, but I didn't. But it's going to go into total saved. So for now, I'm just going to put 0, but let's say that I ended up saving 10, then that's how much more money I saved during that month. Okay, so I'm currently editing my video and I realized I did the math wrong. So I already erased all of this stuff, unfortunately, but what I was saying in the video was you add up all of these categories and then put the total here. That's not entirely true. You add up gas, food, spending, and bills. Oh, I'm sorry, here. You add up gas, food, spending, and bills, and then that goes into total spent, but moving, emergency, and then the tattoo vacation fund goes into savings, along with the adding and subtracting from the differences here. I hope that made sense. Sorry for getting it wrong the first time and for not having the numbers still here to do the example, but I hope that made sense. Please let me know in the comments if it didn't. I hope this was educational or informative or can help you work towards your own financial system. This is still very new to me, this whole concept of tracking my finances. It's all still very new to me. So I'm going to try my best to follow through with this and to make adjustments as I see fit. And then lastly, I just want to show what my spending tracker will look like for January. So as you can see, I have the date here, the date that the transaction occurred, what the transaction was, and then how much was spent, the amount. And then I have a second column of that. And that's how I'll be keeping track of what I spend more closely. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that this can help you work towards your own system, and I hope that you got something out of it. If anything, maybe at least some ideas for layouts. And that's all. So thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.